who am I as a sexual being? And there are a lot of techniques also related to, for example, activating your muscles down in a pelvic area to really move that and cultivate that energy in order to use it for whatever you want, right? Because sexual energy can be used for sexual activity, but it could also be used for creativity, for healing, for spiritual. And so, and the body is always in the present moment, right? Our mind can be somewhere else, and even our spirit could travel back and forth, but the body is here and now. And so the way to really live this present moment is really tuning in to what your body has to tell you. And it'll always tell you the truth, but we often tend to ignore it. Stress was very important for us, because if we didn't have all of our stress, that's what it activates all of our systems, right? In order to be able to run away from those wild animals that we're chasing us, or to climb a tree and get that fruit when we're hungry, or to fight with with whoever was whatever the different tribes were fighting with each other. So stress was what made us survive in the wilderness, right? Nowadays, our body operates in exactly the same way. Really, I find, for example, that mornings are a really important time for us to connect to that primitive part of ourselves, which is really the part that's going to help us nourish us with this vital energy, with this with positivity, and with creating the day that we want.
Hello, I am Marcelle Bottini and welcome to the Ancestral Wisdom podcast for the future. Here we are going to be interviewing and meeting people who have not only deepened their personal knowledge, but also live their lives with the goal of leading by example. After all, wisdom is practical and not just about knowledge. So before we start, I would like to ask to you, who is Bella Bablumian?
That's a really interesting question, because I always, I've had a lot of crisis of identity, especially, like the midlife crisis that everyone knows about. And, after a lot of soul searching, I realized that really who we are is really about this journey, right, that we're living. And in my case, I come from the ex-Soviet Republic of Armenia. So when that world fell apart, I found a new home in United States. So I stayed there for about 15 years, and then I found finally my home in Brazil. So there are actually a lot of different Bellas, right? That have constructed who I am and what I do and what I'm really about. But I think at the essence, I found that all of those things don't really define me, right? I'm what I studied, and I studied a lot of different things, and the experiences that I've had. But it's this essence that I'm coming closer to with each passing day. And actually, the Sensefulness method that I'm going to describe to you is what really helped me reconnect more with who I am. So, but also going a little bit into the practical aspects of who I am. I studied my journey of really reconnecting with this essence of who we are with study of psychology. So I studied psychology, trying to understand how our mind works at first. Then, I went on to study international health policy and try to see how we can create a better infrastructure for people to be well and healthy. Then I also, on the side, tried to help people on a personal level. So I became a holistic nutritionist and a fitness professional. And my search was always for, how can we give all the conditions for people to be well and really discover who they are and be healthy. But eventually, I kind of integrated all of those things that I've learned it was not just one thing that I thought, would work, but it was all of those different tools and knowledge. And then I went after a lot of like ancestral knowledge and kind of the ancient traditions that we have left behind us. And that's really what I've been focused on in Brazil, sort of reconnecting to some of the forgotten knowledge that also is, coming back to help us reintegrate. It's not really about just knowledge, right? A lot of times it's actually about deconstructing the knowledge that our mind is filled with. So
it's beautiful. For me, you are really an example of a beautiful woman, powerful woman, and that really, how can I say, really carrying these essence of woman. I mean, like in our society, like it's not so easy to see like a powerful woman that is also very feminine. And I always remember a talk you're giving about wellness and how it's important for us to really look after ourselves. Because in some ways, like it's healing. It's not just about show how beautiful we are. This is not important, actually. At the end, like who we really are. And like looking after ourselves in some ways, it's the way for healing us. It's for self-esteem. It's for our inner self, not for show the word. So I would like to ask you to tell about like this wellness and like how you use that in your life.
You're absolutely right, Marcelle. And that's one of the reasons, when I was in the fitness industry and sort of the wellness fitness industry in gyms in the US, it was all about aesthetics, right? People looking for a formula to lose that weight or to look a certain way, right? And eventually, like you get into that mindset that beauty is all that matters, or being a certain weight is all that matters, and then and you really start sculpting a certain self that's not really who you are, right? And like I got pretty good at doing that for people and for myself, but then I found myself really depleted and really disconnected from who I really was. And I actually started having some really serious health issues. Even though I was following all the right rules of, what you should eat, because I studied nutrition, what you should, how you should exercise. But eventually that really depleted me because I wasn't really listening to my, to the authentic self and what my real self wanted, right? And eventually when I moved on, I think Brazil, I mean, you're from Brazil, so you understand, like, especially in Rio, when I came here and I saw how people, even though they, people live a healthy life here too, but in a way they do it in such a pleasurable and fun way. And, they're there playing on the beach and sort of just enjoying it, right? It's not that, I have to go to the gym and do those set of exercises and eat this. You have those people here too, but you see this essence of following your true desires and following what really makes you feel good. So, if you enjoy dancing, then, don't go to the gym and run on the treadmill, go take a dance class, right? This is like at the surface of it. So after moving here, I realized how important it is to really reconnect to that inner voice, and even on the small things, right? Because we hear about this, finding your purpose and following your path kind of in a spiritual level, right? But we don't think about it in our day-to-day life, but it's our day-to-day life that defines our life, right? So, if you're constantly doing these little things in your day-to-day that are composed of things that are, sort of obligations and things you have to do, you don't have time to be who you are. So this idea of taking care of yourself and listening to what your body is telling you and what gives you pleasure, I think is kind of, it helps you bring the purpose into the present moment. And that's what I've discovered most important, bringing back, and then everything else falls into place. You become healthy, you become beautiful, because that beauty is, like you said, it's not a external. You don't have to worry about it. It's that it comes from the inside, when you're happy, when you're enjoying yourself, when you're helping others, right? So I think all of those things fall into place when you are on your path and when you're following your personal, whatever you want to call it, pleasure, guidance, inner voice. Yeah.
Yeah, what you say is so true. I listened to PhD doctor once that calls Caroline Miss. She was telling that she's also a medium, and she can see people's energy, and she can see chakras and all these things. She says that it's very common people ask her what their life purpose are. And so she's able to see that, and she's able to tell people that the purpose, for example, is being kind and being nice. And she can see clearly how upset people are when listen that. It's because like everybody thinks like life purpose is something big that change the whole life. They're important to be followed that. But they don't realize that be kind. It's like be kind with people around you, how it's powerful, how it can really change the realities. Because we can never change the realities doing something big. And you're doing something big, sometimes it's the consequence that you did a lot of small stuff and then it become big.
Yeah.
But at the end, like it's, yeah, go ahead, please.
No, and what you said is it also applies to you as well, right? It's you being kind to others, but in the first place, it's kind of this thing about, you know, putting the mask on first when you're in an airplane. You have to take care of yourself before you can help others. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to even go back to that, because self-care, people see it sometimes, especially women. We see it as something superfluous. Oh, we don't have time for it. And it's maybe even something that's very selfish to take time to take care of ourselves. But in reality, that's the very first step to sort of even being able to take that first step of being nice to others, of constructing this great purposeful life. Because, you know, if you're not well with yourself, if you don't have yourself all together, you don't have your, you know, your personal power, you don't have that energy, right? And oftentimes, like you said, it's purpose is composed of those little steps that you take one day at a time, each moment. And really, it starts with you and with the people that are immediately next to you. So yeah, it's not a very glamorous process in the beginning, right? It's very much about, you know, kind of focusing in what you can do in a present moment, you know, because we want this glorious answers of, you know, finding purpose and going after our dreams. And that exists. For sure it exists, but it starts right here inside. And it also, of course, people don't like it because it puts a huge responsibility on you, right? On you become the protagonist of your own life. It's not, you can't blame the others for the problems that you're having, you know. You know, I see a lot of people sort of looking for external solutions always, right? And oh, it's because our society is like that, and because my partner is like that, and, you know, because you know, we're living in a pandemic. But in reality, all of it starts from this personal responsibility, and that responsibility is heavy at first, but when you connect with it, then it becomes an empowerment. And that's, you know, I think when you said, you know, presented to me as a powerful woman, that's what I see. You know, I took that responsibility, and all of a sudden I felt that responsibility made me in charge of everything I do in life. You know, I don't have to wait for someone to give me health or to give me pleasure or to give me all of those things, because I can create my own reality. And when you do it from your heart and from, you know, with caring, which it's kind of a definition of when you connect to yourself, everything will come from your heart, right? Then, you know, it just all flows. It's a very beautiful, concept, actually.
Yeah, you say a very good point about like when you take responsibility about who you are, you recognize it who you are. For example, you are a powerful woman, and you really take responsibility for being a powerful woman. And then everything changed because you really are who you are. And before you say something about really find your inner self and be your inner self. So I would like to ask you, what did you do for really find your inner self?
Mhm. That's the $1,000,000 question, right, Marcelle? um, well, I think that's why I really believe in this method that I don't even want to say I created it, because it's really a composition of everything, I've learned, studied, and experienced myself. I've had 2 very profound healing experiences from health conditions that I was told would not go away, and they did, and so I've become a true believer in this methodology that I put together, but that is really just a compilation of the wisdom that comes from around the world, and from other realms sometimes. But I think we often try to find this inner voice, like I said, through this spiritual journey, or through looking for what's our purpose, and going after sort of like the life coaching approach, right, where you go after that bigger look, right? That what is my purpose in life? I like going very much to the basics, all the way back, and really looking inward. And especially, for women, this is really important, because I think we've really disconnected from who we really are. And you also mentioned this whole thing about being feminine and being powerful and being, I think there are a lot of things that we take for granted, what being a woman really means, and what's like the beauty standards and all that stuff, right? So I think the first step is to really understanding, to connecting to your inner voice and going inward and really listening to this essence, like who is it that we truly are. And oftentimes you will find very conflicting answers, because first of all, they are completely often disconnected from what we hear from all the different stories that society tells us. And a lot of times, we want one thing in this moment, and we want something completely different in another moment. That's also part of being human, and especially being a woman. And so the way the connection for works in my opinion, is really by being present every moment with you, right? And always looking for that answer deep inside. And I mean, there are different techniques and methods that I've learned, that I use, but in reality, it's very simple, right? It's just, you can call it meditation, you can call it being present inside your body, you can call it breathing. I mean, there's just so many different ways, but it's really disconnecting yourself from everything else, from that external chatter, from the mind, and tapping into the wisdom that's always there in you. And with women, we say we have this inner intuition, right? And the female intuition. And it's true, but we have been so disconnected from it by our societies, and that's been considered as like something like witchcraft for years, that we have really ignored this voice, and we think it's always wrong, and it's impulsive, and it's so it's really about relearning it. It's not acquiring something new. It's just shutting everything else out to start listening to it again. And it's a practice. It's really a daily practice.
It's beautiful. And I think in the Sensefulness, you tell about that. Can you explain us more about what is this method, Sensefulness?
Sure. Yeah. So the Sensefulness method is a method that really, like I said, it really combines a lot of different wisdoms from around the world. I'm a very international person, and I've really studied health and wellness through different through different traditions, and because I really believe the truth is always when you put together different truths. There's no one truth, right? So I always seek answers in a lot of different places before I sort of create my own thing. And so the Sensefulness method is about reconnecting to this ancestral language of the body, right? To the mechanisms, right, that are at the core of who we are. They're almost kind of like, you can see them as the primitive structure of, like, the animal structure of our body, right? That was created back in the day, when we were living in the caves. We didn't have anyone to tell us, how to be healthy, how to be well, how to obtain food, how to procreate, how to pick our partners. Like, all of that was very instinctive and natural, right? And we have evolved a lot, obviously. Like, our brains have changed. We now have a neocortex. We're not just, we're not reptilian. We don't have just a reptilian brain anymore. But at the core, we still have this structure that operates in a very, it's constantly operating and directing us, right? So and it's actually, if you think about it, 80% of the time, or some say even 90% of the time, we're operating at this subconscious, instinctive fashion. Our body does things without us knowing it. And even things that we think we're consciously, choosing our foods and choosing our things. In reality, most of these things happen in a very, at a level where we don't have time to think about it. And that's why, habits are so difficult to break. Addictions are so difficult to, get rid of, because it all happens at an instinctive level, right? So the idea is not to go back to the caves with the Sensefulness method, but it is to understand how our body works. So it's like this, the phase of understanding how the body works and what it needs to really flow in this natural way. And then really tap into this language in order to be able to use it for our advantage, as opposed to for it to be making us, destroying us, right? So I'll give you an example, because sometimes it's easier to take an example. So stress is something that, ruins everyone's life right now. The stress is the biggest killer. It causes some of the, top killers in our, heart disease and cancers. They're all really at the root of it. We have stress, right, as one of the biggest causes. But stress, if you really tap into that ancestral language, right, an ancestral mechanism, stress was very important for us. Because if we didn't have all of our stress, that's what? It activates all of our systems, right? In order to be able to run away from those wild animals that we're chasing us, or to climb a tree and get that fruit when we're hungry, or to, fight with, with whoever was, whatever, the different tribes were fighting with each other. So stress was what made us survive in the wilderness, right? Nowadays, our body operates in exactly the same way, but unfortunately, we are not, for example, the stressor now is your partner, right, is stressing you out, or your boss. It's not the wild animal anymore. So instead of running away from them, we stay there, and we actually don't take the stress out of our body. It stays directly inside of us. Right? Because before, you had the wild animal, you ran away, and through your hormones and through your nervous system, your body used that stress to make you, get energized, and then your body would go directly back to equilibrium. But now you stay in this chronic stress forever. And so your body never shuts down the stress reaction. And so you end up really taking that stress and eating away at your body and creating cancer, creating heart, high blood pressure and all these things. So how does Sensefulness work? You have to recognize this stress. You have to understand it as something really, it's part of who you are, but then you use it to your advantage. So if you're feeling stressed with your partner, let's say, you're going to go to a boxing class and you're going to use that stressed out energy and punch that, punching bag, or go do a dance class and really express your frustration. So you see how you're really following that ancestral way of living, but you're not going back to the caves. You're not, you're obviously not gonna, fight and fist fight your boyfriend. You're gonna channel it. And I really like using this word channeling. So you tap into that energy and you channel it. So that's just one example.
I never perceive stress on that way. And it makes total sense. And I will say even more. Once I hear indigenous say, I think North American indigenous, when they asked about stress, he say like, stress does not really exist. Stress is a new word for fears. And how you describe, it's like our primitive beings used to feel fears from animals. And then they used to run away. But now, tell for a top level executive of what they're feeling, it's fears. It's
very good point.
Yeah, and if you start to thinking about like they have fears of loss, they have fears of being controlled for the partner, they have fears of losing money, so and they needed to control. So, but everything's based on fears. And so when we talk about that, I remember what you said about like this sensefulness also helping us to connect with our primitive part. So, and you already described that doing exercise, but what else can we do to really connect
that was just
to our primitive part?
Yeah, so that was just one example, but in reality, everything can be done with sensefulness, right? So from, for example, from the moment you wake up, and from the moment we wake up, what happens? We turn on our phone, we hear that alarm clock, and we immediately connect to our rational brain, right? And immediately we're sort of programmed for the rest of the day. So really, I find, for example, that mornings are a really important time for us to connect to that primitive part of ourselves, which is really the part that's going to help us nourish us with this vital energy, with this with positivity, and with creating the day that we want. So turn off your phones and really reconnect with who you are. So really just I like waking up with my eyes still closed without necessarily like turning the alarm on, although, sometimes it's important, but just moving in the body and really connecting to your body, giving yourself maybe a little self-massage, taking a couple of deep breaths. And actually the breaths like you can do throughout the day, right? But the lower belly deep breathing, you just do like 3. We can do it right now, right? If you just let me show you. Just put your hands on your stomach and really breathe with your stomach, This is completely against all the, rules of being a woman, like you get your belly out, because that's the way you're really going to get the breath in there. And sometimes I really like also when we exhale, making some kind of a sigh or noise, or And let me explain what happens when you're breathing and when you're making those sounds. First of all, when you're breathing, you really slow down your whole nervous system. You activate your vagus nerve to go back to, from the stress to relaxation. And you really kind of massaging really all of your internal organs. So in a way, you're really reconnecting your whole body. And the vibration that you make with the right, with the aside from the breathing, with the vibrations of the sound is actually a very direct. It's the only sense that goes directly into your body, right? It's the waves of the sound go and penetrate your body, and these good vibrations, they can actually recalibrate our whole cellular network, right? And put us into a state of almost, this rebirthing at every moment. So I really like thinking of every morning as an opportunity to create a different state of what is it that I'm feeling. And if you're feeling something negative, also you have to connect with that and see, like, what is my body telling me? Like, oh, I'm having a pain in my like lower back. Put your hands on there and feel it and breathe into it and really bring your attention to it. But again, this is not, this is a little bit connected to the mindfulness, right? But it's very much without the mind. You don't want to think about it. You want to feel it. And actually, it's not even feeling it, it's sensing it, right? Just like the animals, that's like in the morning, the cat, you see the cat stretching. That's the type of vibe you want to be in. And this is applied to lots of different other techniques that I suggest throughout the day that are related to, like body, breathing, singing, vocalizing, right? Because like I said, it's really connects you to your cells and to your vibration. And one other thing that I really, it's very different in my method that a lot of people are like, oh, what does that have to do with, with well-being, is sexuality. Also reconnecting with your, with who you are at that level, right? And that's, sexuality is this weird part of our existence that we've sort of tucked into a different box. But in reality, the ancients saw sexuality as the source of all our vital energy, right? So kind of like if you look at the chakra systems, right? It's where it's the base of our spine. It's our second chakra. That's where all the energy really originates. And we're not talking about like a sexual relationship with someone else, even though that's obviously really beneficial. That's also part of it. But it's really about, even in the morning when you wake up, reconnecting to that sexual part of yourself. And it's, we don't think of ourselves as sexual beings, but at the core, we are just that. And that we're born with sex, and we sort of either we oppress it too much or we focus on it too much, but in reality, it's just a natural part of ourselves, right? So Sensefulness really focuses on that as well, and really bringing back that energy of, who am I as a sexual being? And there are a lot of techniques also related to, for example, activating your muscles down in a pelvic area to really move that and cultivate that energy in order to use it for whatever you want, right? Because sexual energy can be used for sexual activity, but it could also be used for creativity, for healing, for spiritual enlightenment. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to mention. I mean, there's a lot, because I think that it's really about working. This Sensefulness is just a way to connect to these different parts of ourselves. So just mentioned a few of them.
It's about knowing our body. Our body is here every day, and the most of people don't even know about their own body.
Yeah, because the body, you brought up something that I actually forgot to mention. Yeah, the body is actually, we only see the body as what's it called? There's aesthetics, right? For aesthetic purposes or for something. But the body is what's the vehicle that allows us to live the present moment, right? And it's the only vehicle we have. And so, and the body is always in the present moment, right? Our mind can be somewhere else, and even our spirit could travel back and forth, but the body is here and now. And so the way to really live this present moment is really tuning into what your body has to tell you. And it'll always tell you the truth, but we often tend to ignore it. We prefer to, we have pain, pop that pill, and or get some whiskey and forget about the pains. But in reality, the voice is always there, the voice of the body. It's just awakening ourselves to it.
It's beautiful, Bella. And talking about the body, what's the best way to people really learn to flow with their own body?
Well, like I said, the body is your vehicle, right? And the body was made to be in motion, right? And that's one of the things that I really dislike, this idea of exercise and fitness. And I used to work in the industry, so it's all about this many sets and running, but it's not really about that. What I really am referring to here is movement, right? We were made to move. We were in constant motion, and we rested a lot too. But this concept of really allowing everything you do, whatever. Let's say you're having certain emotions, right? You're having an emotion of fear, or you're having an emotion of love, or right, moving your body with that emotion, right? Because it's like allowing your body to be the vehicle to express what you're feeling in that moment. Dance is an amazing way to do that, but a lot of times we, right now is not a very good place to dance, but you can do this kind of like dancing in a very spontaneous way to express what your body is feeling. So I really like to think about movement as a way to reconnect with it. And at first you're going to be like, what am I supposed to move? Because we're so disconnected, right, from the body, but really allowing it to take you and not judging it. It's this, you have to turn off that voice that'll say like, oh, you're doing a weird move there. Like, what is that supposed to mean? Right. Another way, Marcelle, that I really emphasize in the Sensefulness trainings and things like that is really reconnecting with all of your senses, right? That's where the name actually comes from, right? The senses, right? We all think that we have 5 senses, but in reality we have more than 20. But even those 5 senses, like reconnect with them and always use them. So use even like let's say you're eating a meal, right? We often just like gobble down the food and we don't even know what we ate. We didn't taste it, we didn't smell it, we didn't feel all the aromas, we didn't touch the food like before we used to eat with our hands. And that's part of this awakening of the body. Like if you look, like you mentioned my daughter, right? And I learned so much from her. Children are actually, if you look at them, they represent and they embody this way of living connected to the body. We just tell them not, don't do this, or you're making a big mess. And, that's how being senseful is, just being a child, reconnecting to the child inside and really touching and feeling and playing with your body, reconnecting with the pleasures. And pleasure is a really powerful mechanism to that. We really know how to connect to pain, right, Marcelle? So you have our society is like adamant for knowing how to, you feel the pain and you don't need to do something. But pleasure is the opposite of pain, right? So if pain indicates that your body is, you're not doing something right for your body, then pleasure indicates that you're doing something good for your body. So really following those, I call them sustainable pleasures. The pleasure that's not just, you drank wine and, the next day you're having a headache, but the type of pleasures that feel good right now and are going to make you feel good in the long term, right? So following the pleasures of the body, really following that, sometimes it's just like it's even self-indulgences, right? And really self-care that's pleasurable, enjoyable, and connected to your needs. So
do you think this is a good way for you, for your body here, your true self, that being spirit?
Yes. So I often find, with people that I work with, it's really interesting that you asked this question, because I always find that in the beginning, it's really just about changing habits, right? Like people want to eat healthier, or people want to, start exercising more. And when I guide them to follow their voice more and follow their body more, that works. The healthy habits start coming into place. But eventually, this listening to your body also allows you to start listening to your voice that's about greater things, right? Maybe I'm not happy at the job that I'm doing anymore. This is not my purpose in life. And then you really start making your decision based on honoring this voice. But it starts with in my methodology, it really starts with the body, and I find it really powerful because then it's all integrated, right? We don't have to separate the physical body and the spiritual body. It's all part of the same journey. And we like to, in our society, to separate things so much, and I think it's time we bring all of those things together. And don't think about the body as like the lower part and the spirit as the higher part and the mind. We're here as one, right? I think this oneness is really important.
It's very good point. Like some people say, like, I don't see anything, I don't see energy. And sometimes these same people does not even look to their own body, does not even look to the plant, for example, and see that the plants need water. If you don't really able to really see like the physical world, we cannot really see anything else. And this is about the same for listening. Like our body talks to us all the time. And even people tells us message all the time, but we don't really hear. Our mind is always so busy. So if you don't really connect to that like simple sense, like to see, to really hear anything, how are you going to be able to hear our intuition, see energy, and really be guided for our true self?
I used to have this webinar series last year that I called All One. Alone, it's called Alone or All One. And this was the ancient meaning of the word alone was to be all one. And I find this really meaningful because, we in our society, we don't know how to be alone anymore. We've run away. Even when we're resting, we're with our phone or we're talking with someone, we're watching something, right? We're never, and alone is really about this moment to connect to yourself and to this higher, whatever you believe in, to God or to, the higher purpose. But I think we don't give ourselves that time and we don't listen to our inner voice. And like you said, it starts with the small things, with everything, from the sip you take in the water to resting and really taking care of your body, allowing yourself to rest, allowing yourself to be taken care of, and saying no when you don't want something. So it's just everything becomes senseful. When you like really follow with the body, there's no. It's not just applied to some parts of your day to day. It's a way of living.
Yeah, and the life become a ritual. We celebrate the life for really celebrate who we are and really take care of the body as these sacred beings. So we're going to the end soon. Before that, I would like to know if you wanted to say something else or giving some advices for people to really feeling the life follow their bodies.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I wanted to really congratulate you on this amazing initiative because I think we're living in a time where everything that we've created in our societies is really coming under scrutiny, and everything is really, we're questioning whether things are working. And thank God we're doing that, right? Because things aren't working in many fronts, right? At a society level, at an individual level, in our relationships, we have to redefine a lot of things. And oftentimes, I think people have a hard time knowing where to seek answers, right? Where to look for answers. And I really like to believe that, nothing is really created new. I mean, all of the answers all the wisdom has already existed. It's always been there. And, the ancestral wisdom has already been all created for us. We just need to tap into it. And in reality, it hasn't been created. It's just always been there. And so, my method, the Sensefulness method, is really about just tapping into what you already know. And it's not even ancestral wisdom, it's the ancestral way of being, I would say. So I really encourage people to just sometimes turn off the TV and don't even, we always like to get our friends' advice or whoever experts advise, like that's important, but sometimes we just need to listen to ourselves and really learn to be, not do, not prove things, just being is something we really need to learn. So yeah, it's just going back to the basics. For me, that's the main message that I want to leave this wonderful conversation with. So
thank you, Bella. I really learned a lot with you today. We always thought like we spend a lot of time together, but I never really knew about this part of you. I knew what you're doing, but like in a very superficial way. Thank you so much for everything you shared.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I know sometimes we don't, we don't talk about the important things.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to, invite, because this year, I think we're going to be working a lot with women, especially, and really, I think, especially this is a month of March, right, where we're celebrating the month of women. And I'm really putting together some really powerful programs with other practitioners too, not just myself, but really to allow women to rediscover their inner voice and reconnect with this inner power that we have, to allow us to really reconstruct the societies that we're living in, because I think we need to back our femininity, right? We need to bring back this like power that that can, I think, save the world.
It is,
So,
yes. And how people can find you?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Get
So
to
it's
know,
yeah, we
get to know
have
about what you do in March.
It's called the. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, through the @Embody Wellness with an I, so IMBODY and then wellness, so Embody Wellness. We also have the website under the same with the same name, www.embodywellness.com. YouTube channel as well. So yeah, I think you will find it very useful. We have a network of professionals who follow this same kind of approach to pleasurable wellness, self-discovery, and really reuniting different parts of us to live in this in a more natural way and aligned with who you are. So would love to welcome all of you, and thank you again, Marcelle.